The book of Zephaniah. A dramatic prophecy delivered during a dark time in Judah's history, warning of swift, inevitable judgment. The central message is the terrifying day of the Lord, a time when God will utterly sweep away everything. The judgment starts in Jerusalem. The people practice deep idolatry, worshiping the sun, moon, and pagan gods like Moloch. The target, the complacent, the powerful, and those who falsely believe God would never act, saying he will do nothing. The judgment is universal. God also promises doom for the surrounding nations, the Philistines, Moab, Ammon, and Cush. But in the midst of the warning, a window of hope. Zephaniah urges the humble of the land to seek righteousness and seek God. The prophet delivers a final, passionate denunciation. Jerusalem is rebellious and defiant, refusing to take correction or trust God. The judgment is not just destruction, but purification. God is removing the pride and the deceivers. After purification, the promise of restoration. God will assemble the scattered remnant, the humble and the afflicted. They will no longer practice deception or injustice. They will live in safety, speaking the truth with a pure language. The Lord himself will dwell in their midst. He will quiet them by his love and personally rejoice over them with singing. God will gather those who were despised, turn their shame into praise, and make them famous among all the peoples of the earth. In a future time, Jesus will return and set up an everlasting kingdom on the earth. The end.
So anyway, so that worked out. Britt was saying I have too much fun with this, but
I noticed Jesus was wearing boots.
What's that?
He was wearing boots.
Yeah, I know that you can't get everything perfect in these things, you know. It's like when it said Jesus is he's gonna come back and they're gonna be joy and all that, and the three guys are just standing there, sort of like. They were supposed to be patient, but okay. So we're going to do Zephaniah tonight. Okay, let's start off with a picture of the family tree. Okay, now if you look at the family tree, there's Zephaniah there. There's the king Josiah. And they all come from Hezekiah. So Hezekiah has two kids, and it goes down to here. Now, I don't know, does that make them cousins, or is that his uncle? Those two are brothers. Okay. And so those are cousins. Right. So they're all cousins.
Those two are second cousins. The green and the one right across from them are second cousins. Yeah. And then the one in the red.
Yeah.
Would be to the green one. The green and the red are second cousins once removed.
Okay. Well, anyway, he's related to the king. Okay. That's the point. That's the point of that, showing that he's related to the king, King Hezekiah. So when you look at the minor prophets, sometimes all we get is the father's name, but in Zephaniah it's different. It opens up with a specific genealogy. He's the great-great-grandson of King Hezekiah. And King Josiah was his cousin so much removed, or whatever. Second cousin once removed? I don't know. I don't understand all that stuff. So anyway, it means that Zephaniah wasn't a common person. He was a royal blood. And he grew up in a palace or closely a royal court in Jerusalem. And this gave him an inside view of the court and the kings and all the goings on. And it also confirms the authority of his message. God used a descendant of David's line to call out the corrupt descendants of David's line who are currently in power. Judgment was coming from within the royal family itself. Okay, the next picture is a timeline. And so these are the simple timelines. I had a confusing one before, but this is simpler. So this is where the northern kingdom gets conquered. Hezekiah becomes king. Then Hezekiah listens to God, and they have peace. And then, Jeremiah starts his ministry. Assyrian capital is Nineveh sacked. And Zedekiah is right around in this area here. I'm surprised this is a timeline of Zedekiah, but it doesn't even say where Zedekiah is, which is strange. But anyway, but that's the time that he was living in. And then the king was Josiah at the time. Josiah was a good king, and he tried to get rid of all the idols and get rid of a lot of stuff. He was a reforming king, but he was in a bad situation because it was so prevalent then. Josiah's father, Ammon, and his grandfather were two of the most wicked kings in Judea. It's the most wicked kings they've ever had. And so their long, decadent reigns had plunged the entire nation into deep mixing of worship with the foreign gods, pagan gods, and the God of Israel. So they just got all mixed up. Baal and Molech and all that were all combined together. They even had statues of them in the temple. That's what I was trying to show in that film, where they were coming to worship, and they had these Baal and these different gods there. Despite having a good king in the palace, the people were still rotten. And Zephaniah trying to wake them up. That's what he was trying to do. He's trying to let them know that Babylon's going to come and judge them if they don't straighten up. Now, Zedekiah's message is all about the day of the Lord. And it's mentioned 7 times. And here's a picture of, no. Let's see, is that the first one? Yeah, wait a minute, hold on a second. Because of rock. No, it's the mountains one. Okay, so the prophecies and the words in Zephaniah they have a near view and a far view. And so you can't see the valleys in between, so you don't know how far away it is. And so when Zephaniah was preaching, that was in King Josiah's time, and the far view is past where we are. It's the day of the Lord. Okay, now the next one's the day of the Lord. And then the day of the Lord, the fulfillments, the near view, you can see it in all these prophecies. And the far view, you can see it in all these prophecies. And some of them are even in the same chapter. But some, like Obadiah, chapters 1 to 14 are all talk about the near view, and then Obadiah 15 and 21 talk about the far view. And so it's all mixed up in the prophets. And all the different prophets, whenever they gave a prophecy, they always condemned the whatever they were doing. You're going to be punished, but then there's going to be a reward at the end. Jesus is going to come back. Jesus is going to come for you, or the Messiah is going to come back. And so that's what these all show. So the near view was a coming invasion by Babylon. And they would decimate Jerusalem and Judea. And Zephaniah was warning that God was going to use a foreign nation to execute his judgment. One thing that's interesting is that after the Babylonian exile, they never went back to idolatry. They never went back to full-scale idolatry. And so that, I guess they finally learned their lesson. It took a while, but there was little incidents, but it wasn't widespread like it was before, where they were desecrating the temple and they were doing all kinds of stuff. So even Samaria, they didn't go back to idolatry. So that was interesting. Now, Zephaniah's meaning means hidden. Yahweh has hidden. And he gives a perception of survival. The humble remnant he'll hide them. And he gives warnings about, seek the Lord and so this way you'll be hidden from the day of judgment. So the prophet's name, Zephaniah, means Yahweh has hidden or hidden by the Lord. And so the prophet's name confirms his promise that those who seek the Lord, righteousness and humility will be hidden by God. So God offers us spiritual security and a hiding place where no political or military power can match that. He's strong. That you've heard of the thing where he hideth my soul in the cleft of the rock. So there's songs about that. There's Rock of Ages, He hideth my soul, Cleft of the Rock. There's a new song out by Kramer's. I don't know if it's a new song, but it's new to me. And but it's another song about that. And in Exodus chapter 33, verse 22, let's just go to that real quick here. Okay, Exodus 33 and verse 22. And so in 21 it says, and the Lord said, here is a place by me, you shall stand on a rock. So it shall be while my glory passes by that I will put you in the cleft of a rock, and I will cover you with my hand while I pass. And so what the Lord's doing is he's protecting him so he doesn't go blind by the glory of God. So what Zephaniah is he's a royal preacher warning his own family and the nation that if they don't straighten up, get rid of the idols, start worshiping God alone, that there's going to be judgment coming, and Babylon's the one that's going to be judging them. Okay, let's go to chapter 1. That was just an introduction. So chapter 1. Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 1. The word of the Lord which came to Zephaniah, the son of Cushai, the son of Gedaliah, and the son of Amariah, the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Ammon, the king of Judea. And so it's not just Zephaniah's opinion. He's saying the word of the Lord. So he's saying that this is all coming from the Lord. And he also shows his long genealogy and to show that he is of royal blood. Okay, verses 2 and 3. I will utterly consume everything from the face of the land, says the Lord. I will consume man and beast. I will consume birds of the heaven, fish of the sea, and the stumbling blocks along with the wicked. I will cut off man from the face of the land, says the Lord. This is a scorched earth policy. He's going to just wipe everything out. He says, I will utterly consume. So there's not going to be anything left. It's going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah. In fact, I think he makes reference to that later on in the next chapter. And the stumbling blocks he's talking about are the idols, the ungodly things that they are worshiping. God will remove the idols and the wicked who love them. Okay, the next picture, this is verses 4 to 6. I will stretch out my hand against Judah and against all the inhabitants of Jerusalem. I will cut off every trace of Baal from this place, the names of the idolatrous priests with the pagan priests, those who worship the host of heaven on the housetops, those who worship and swear by the oaths of the Lord, but also those who swear by Malcolm, those who have turned back from the following of the Lord and have not sought the Lord or inquired of him. God now zooms in on Judah and Jerusalem, and he's saying he's going to tear down all the idols. And so that's what that represents. We're tearing down, all the idols are going to be torn down. King Josiah tried to do that. He tried to purify the land, but it was so entrenched he couldn't get rid of it all. Baal worship had just penetrated the nation. They just, I don't know why they turned to the idols. I mean, they had God. I mean, they had the Shekinah glory and everything. I mean, I don't know. They also worshipped heaven, the astrology, the New Age stuff, all the stars, and they were up on the rooftops looking at the stars instead of looking at the creator of the stars. And then they compromised. It says, those who worship and swear oaths by the Lord, but also swear by Malcolm. So they have 1 foot in the truth and 1 foot in false. So they're trying to do both. That's like a lot of Christians do that they come to church on Sundays and then they live like the world all week. And then they come to church, so they have their foot in both. You can't do that. You have to be all the way in. You can't be halfway. It's either in or out. In fact, Jesus talks about the lukewarm, that he'll spit them out of their mouth. He wants you to make it. You have to choose to either serve God or not serve God. Don't try to do both, because it doesn't work. You can't, there's a verse that says can't serve God and mammon. You can't serve both. You have to just serve God, and that's it. And like I was saying, that after the Babylonian captivity, the Jews never went back to that. So they learned their lesson, so they never went back to idolatry. And then they talk about the lukewarm, or he detests lukewarmness or double-mindedness. And in Revelation, it talks about that. And so I'll read, that's a lot of verses, but okay. I'll narrow it down. In Revelation chapter 3, verse 16, it says, So then, because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will vomit you out of my mouth. And so you could read the whole thing, but he's talking about the Laodicean church, and that's the age we're in now, is the Laodicean church. The 7 churches are different ages of the church, and it follows through. And the Laodicean is the last one, and that we're in the last church, and people are falling away from the church. You could see that. In fact, there was some people that delivered boxes. They said that, we come from a small church, and was it five families or something? And so I said, there's a lot of churches like that. There's a lot of churches that preach the truth are small. There's some that are big. I mean, I'm not going to say that they're not. Like Jack Hibbs' church, he speaks the truth, and his is a big church. And but most churches are small. There's a remnant. Okay, verses 7 to 13. Oh, no. No, verse 7. Let's go to verse 7. Yeah. Okay. Verse 7. Be silent in the presence of the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is at hand. For the Lord has prepared a sacrifice. He has invited his guests. So what God's saying is shut your mouth. I don't want to hear what you're talking about. He says, pay attention. God's speaking. The day of the Lord is at hand. It is imminent. Now, this is Zephaniah, God speaking through Zephaniah saying that the day of the Lord is coming right away. Well, that was that near and far thing. So the near thing is that the day of the Lord, Babylon's going to come and destroy Jerusalem and Judea and utterly destroy it. They're going to take the temple apart, take everything out of the temple. They're going to destroy everything. And so that's the short, the near prophecy. So God used Babylon to carry out his judgment. Okay, now 8 and 9. And it shall be in the day of the Lord's sacrifice that I will punish the princes and the king's children, and all such that are clothed with foreign apparel. In the same day I will punish all those who leap over the threshold, who fill their master's house with violence and deceit. So he's saying the judgment's going to start at the top with the leadership, the princes and the royal family. And then notice he's talking about the clothing with foreign apparel. This speaks of preoccupation with worldly trends. So they were always, looking for what's the latest thing. They're embracing the culture of all these different nations. And that's the downfall. That was the downfall of Solomon, that he was marrying these different women and had concubines of different women from all these different countries, and then he would accept their religions, and that was his downfall. He just kept going downhill, and then finally at the end of his life, he sort of realized everything's vanity. He says, fear God. So he finally realized it at the end of his life. It says people that leap over the threshold, and that's saying that people are using violence and deceit to seize property of other people, to enrich their masters. So every level of society is being addressed here, from the kings, the princes, to the peasants, to everybody. Okay, verses 10 to 13. And there shall be on that day, says the Lord, the sound of a mournful cry from the fish gate, a wailing from the second quarter, and a loud crashing from the hills. Wail, you inhabitants of Machish, for all the merchant people will be cut down. All those who handle money are cut off. And it shall come to pass that time I will search Jerusalem with lamps and punish the men who are settled in complacency, who says in their hearts, the Lord will not do good, nor will he do evil. Therefore their goods shall become booty, and their houses a desolation. They shall build houses, but not inhabit them. They shall plant vineyards, and not drink their wine. Okay, their judgment is now localized. It's in Jerusalem. And the first picture is is the fish gate. So he's given reference to the fish gate, and that's the fish gate right there. Oh, wait, I have a pen. That's the fish gate. And so he's saying from the fish gate to Markish. Markish is the market. And so that's a market. That's a typical market there. I don't know why they put that there, but that's a marketplace. So Makish, or Mortar, is the market district. And it's an economic and social collapse. The merchant people are cut off because they put their trust in their gold, their silver, and their business dealings rather than God. Well, God is really, he's really upset about their complacency. He says they're not focused on him, and they're just saying, well, God's not going to do nothing anyway. It's like in, I think it's in Peter, where they say, well, you know, where's Jesus? He's not coming, you know. I mean, you know, he's taking so long, you know. And it says the men settled on their lees. They are saying the Lord will not do good, nor will do evil. It's practical atheism. He's saying God is not involved, detached, simply doesn't care. That is dangerous. Now, I didn't know what this word lees meant, L-E-E-S. Now, Misa might know, because it's the bottom of the wine vats. It's the sediment in the bottom, yeah. I didn't know that, so I had to look it up. And it says the sediment or dregs left at the bottom of the wine container, sluggish and unmoving. And I have a little thing in there that says, ask Misa. So, because she would be more familiar with that. Pardon me?
We sell it.
You sell it?
Yeah, to other companies.
What do you sell it for?
They're able to press it and get more out of it.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd sell it for the cheap wine.
No. Well, probably. I mean, that might be what they're doing with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Zephaniah is changing gears, and he's talking about the tribulation now. Verse 14 and 16. The great day of the Lord is near. It is near and hastens quickly. The noise of the day of the Lord is bitter. There mighty men shall cry out. The day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of devastation and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of the clouds and thick darkness, a day of the trumpet and the alarm against the fortified cities, against the high tower. This is very cinematic. You know, he's talking about all this stuff that's going to be happening. He's piling up all these descriptors, saying wrath, trouble, distress, devastation, desolation, darkness, gloominess. It's a day of divine judgment. And okay. And so what he's referring to is the tribulation, and especially the second half of the tribulation. That's when it's really going to get, I mean, it's going to be bad during here, but this is where it's going to be real, when the bowls are poured out. And Jesus talks about this in Matthew 24. Let's see. Matthew 24, verses 15 to 41. I won't go read the whole thing, but he talks about all the things, the earthquakes and the sun and the moon and everything getting dark and all that stuff. And then in Revelation 15 to 16, it talks about the same thing, happening. So this is talking about the tribulation. And it's a worldwide. First he was talking about the judgment on Jerusalem and Judea. Then he switches gears to worldwide. So that's what I'm saying. It's the far mountain and the near mountain. So he's talking about, the near mountain, which is Judea, Jerusalem, and then the far mountain, he's talking about the world, the day of the Lord, the tribulation. Okay, so let's go to 17 and 18. I will bring distress upon men, and they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord. Their blood shall be poured out like dust, and their flesh like refuse. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. But the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he will make speedy riddance of all who dwell in the land. It says they will walk like blind men. They're unable to find their way, spiritually or physically. They'll be helpless. And the money won't save them. The silver and gold that they trusted in will be useless. In fact, it talks about Revelation when the price of everything goes up sky high, where you can have a wheelbarrow of money or gold and it can't buy a piece of bread. So your money's not going to be any good. My son got a coin yesterday, a little gold coin, and he said somebody gave it to him. And so I said, they did. I said, send me pictures of it. So I looked up the pictures of it. It says $1 on the back. But I looked it up, and it's worth $1,250. And I said, why would somebody give you that? And they said, well, they probably thought it was $1, because it says $1 in the back. So I said, well, just hold it, just save it. Don't spend it as $1. He said, I was going to go to the store and use it as $1. I said, no. I said, don't do that. I said, it's worth a lot of money, And on eBay, I seen it go. It was from $12.50 to $22 something. And so anyway, so I told him, hold on to that thing. What happened was, what he did was, there was a guy that lived 2 doors down that moved to Sacramento. But he got into a motorcycle accident, and near Pleasant Hill. So he rode the bike to my son's house and asked my son if he would take care of the bike, and he said yeah. And then he took off on an Uber or whatever, and then it started raining 2 days later. So he asked my son if he could cover the bike with plastic, especially the valance, is that what it's called? But anyway, with the radio and all that stuff, and then also the air cleaner. So we put plastic all around that and all that. And then the next day, the guy came with a trailer, took the bike away, and my son found an envelope on his doorstep, and it had a $100 bill plus that gold coin. And so my son phoned him up and says, you didn't have to do this. He goes, no, I wanted to. And he says, okay. So anyway, so that's what happened. So he says, at least my good deed got rewarded. Because he wasn't doing it for that. I mean, he was just doing it to help out, so. But he helps up all the people around him, And in fact, there's this one guy that has a collection. He was in the movie business. He has Indiana Jones's hat. He has the whip. He has all these props from the movies and all that. And so my son goes over and helps him all the time. And he fixed the stairs, and then the sliding door, he greased it and everything else. And the guy said, oh, thank you. He says, I'll give you something someday like that. And my son said, don't worry about it. I mean, I'm not doing it for gain. I'm just doing it to help out, so. Anyway, so that's my son. And he's the one that can hardly walk. So anyway, the message is clear. Don't be complacent. You either follow the Lord or don't follow the Lord, but don't stay in the middle where, well, I'll follow him today and I won't follow him tomorrow, or he won't see this or whatever. So anyway, that's the end of chapter 1. Now, chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Gather yourselves together. Yes, gather together, O undesirable nation. Therefore, the decree is issued, or that day passes like shaft. Before the Lord, fiercest anger comes upon you. Before the day of the Lord's anger is upon you. This is a call for spiritual rally. He's trying to rally the people. He's saying, you know what you guys are doing. He says, and there's an urgency. The day of the Lord is coming. And so it's, turn from your wicked ways. I mean, look at Nineveh. Nineveh was a very evil nation, and they all turned. The whole country turned, and with a very simple message. But as we know, they don't turn, and Babylon comes and wreaks havoc. In verse 3, chapter 2, it says, "Seek the Lord, all you meek of the earth, who have upheld his justice. Seek righteousness, seek humility, that it may be well hidden in the day of the Lord's anger." So he's saying, pray to me, and I will hear you. He says, seek the Lord, make him a priority. Seek righteousness, act justly and live correctly. Seek humility, knowing your dependence on him. And so that's a picture of them praying. Okay, verse 4 and 5. For Gaza shall be forsaken, Ashkelon desolate. They shall drive out Ashdod at noonday, and Ekron shall be uprooted. Woe to the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nation of, and I don't know how to pronounce this name, Cherethites. The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Philistines. I will destroy you. So there shall be no inhabitant. God's naming specific cities that are going to be destroyed. And Babylon did come and destroyed everything. And that's a coastal city. There's the ocean right there, and that's a coastal city. That could be Gaza. That could be, any of these cities that are mentioned here. They're all on the coast. Ashkelon and Ashdod and Ekron and all that. They're all coastal cities. So he's saying that he's going to cut them off. And Babylon did that. Babylon came down and destroyed that. And now 6:7 it says, "And the sea coast shall be pastures, with shelters for shepherds and folds for flock. The coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. They shall feed their flocks there in the houses of Ashkelon. They shall lie down in the evening, for the Lord their God will visit them and restore their fortunes." Now he's talking about that later on after the Babylonian captivity, when they come back, all the territory that God destroyed, that it's going to be given to Judah, and they're going to be able to have their flocks of sheep there, and it's a prophecy of national restoration and peace. There's going to be an ultimate peace during the millennium, because that's where Jesus is going to set up his kingdom, and the Jews are going to be revered at that time. And they shall dwell security in the land. Okay, 2-10. "I've heard the reproach of Moab and the insults of the people of Ammon, which they have reproached my people and made arrogant threats against the border. Therefore, as I live, says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. Surely Moab shall be like Sodom, and the people of Ammon like Gomorrah. They shall be overrun with weeds and salt pits and perpetual desolation. The residue of my people shall plunder them, and the remnant of my people shall possess them. This is a sin of pride and mockery. Moab and Ammon, they were arrogant toward Israel. They mocked Israel for their weakness. They mistook God's judgment on Israel for God's rejection of Israel. God didn't reject Israel. He was punishing them for the idolatry. And like I said, once they came back from Babylon, they never went back to idolatry anymore. Probably because all the other nations were all destroyed and there wasn't anything left. But anyway, let's go to verse 11. The Lord will be awesome to them, for he will reduce to nothing the gods of the earth. The people shall worship him, each one from his place, all the islands of the nations. So the judgment on all these gods and nations serves a single prophetic goal: the ultimate establishment of God's absolute sovereignty. He will reduce to nothing all the false deities, preparing a way for global worship during the millennial kingdom. Okay, Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 12. Also the Ethiopian shall be slain by my sword. So this is saying that Ethiopia was Cush back then, and in the far south, and so no nation was too distant or obscure to escape God's accounting. And the Babylonians went all over, and they conquered a lot. Everything that the Lord wanted them to, they conquered. Okay, now 13 and 15. Okay. And he will stretch out his hand against the north, destroy Assyria, and make Nineveh a desolation, as dry as the wilderness. The herd shall lie down in her midst, every beast of the nation, both the pelican and the bittern shall lodge on the capitals of her pillars, and the voice shall sing in the windows. Desolation shall be at the threshold, for he will lay bare the cedar work. This is the rejoicing city, the city that dwelt securely, that said in his heart, I am, and there is none beside me. Now she has become desolation. So it's talking about, Assyria, which was one of the great kingdoms. Nineveh was made desolation. The Babylonians just destroyed, and the Medes destroyed Assyria. And it says, both the pelican and the bittern will lodge in the capitals on our pillars. So they'll be destroyed, and then the birds will be using the tops as resting places. Now, I knew what a pelican was. I didn't know what a bittern was. Pardon me?
It's pretty.
Yeah, it's a bird. I didn't know. I had to look it up to see what it was. It's a pretty bird. I should have got a picture of that, but... Okay, now we're on chapter 3. Okay, woe to her, look at this, verses 1 and 2. Woe to her who is filthy and polluted, to the oppressing city. She has not obeyed his voice. She has not received correction. She has not trusted in the Lord. She has not drawn near to God. So there's a spiritual indictment of Jerusalem, saying it's a oppressing city. It's an oppressed city polluted by sin. It's not just the external nations that he was going through are going to be judged, but it's also Jerusalem's going to be judged. The heart of the problem is a fourfold rejection of God. No obedience, no correction, no trust, and no relationship. This happens when the spiritual fire goes out in the church or in the heart of the believer. They start drifting away. Now, verses 3 and 4. Her princes in her midst are roaring lions. Her judges are evening wolves. That leaves not a bone till morning. Her prophets are insolent, treacherous people. Her priests have polluted the sanctuary, and they have done violence to the law. This is a leadership failure. Failure starts at the top. The leaders were predatory. They were like roaring lions, evening wolves. They exploited the people. And so that's showing the king that they're just exploiting all the people. They're not, the leadership isn't taking care of the people. It's like the president says that he's looking out for the people. And that's his first priority is the people. Instead of the big corporations he's looking out for the people. He wants to bring peace to the world, and he wants, I don't know if you could use slogans, make America great again. He wants to be looking to help the common people. And all the little things he's doing that's what he's trying to do. Well, the princes and the judges weren't that way during this time. And they were corrupt. They were exploiting the people. And the spiritual leadership, the prophets and the priests were even worse. They were polluting the holy things of God. They were misusing the law. Okay, verse 5. The Lord is righteous in her midst. He will do no unrighteousness. Every morning he brings his justice to light. He never fails, but the unjust knows no shame. So this is showing God's consistent nature. Even amidst all this human corruption, he has a standard of righteousness. His justice is consistent. It says every morning. So he brings... Man's failure is due to deliberate lack of shame or conviction. But God is just, he's holy, and he's righteous. And he never wavers. Now, Zephaniah chapter 3, verses 6 to 7. And I got to look this up because it got corrupted on when I printed it out. So Zephaniah chapter 3, verses 6 and 7. I have cut off nations. Their fortresses are devastated. I have made their streets desolate, with none passing by. Their cities are destroyed. There is no one, no inhabitant. I said, surely you will fear me, you will receive instruction, so that her dwelling would not be cut off, despite everything for which I punished her, but they rose early and corrupted all their deeds. So God was using the destruction of other nations, because he didn't attack Babylon. The Babylons didn't attack Judah right away. They attacked all these other nations, all these other cities. And God was hoping that Judah would recognize that God was using them to destroying all these other corrupt cities as a illustration for them, showing that, he's showing them a signal, to look at what I'm doing to all these nations. These nations are greater than you, and they're all falling. If you come back to me, I could stop it. You don't have to suffer this. But they didn't listen. Okay, verse 9. For then I will restore the people a pure language. Pardon me? I didn't do verse 8. See, now you're making me go back to my notes. Okay, verse 8. Therefore, wait for me, says the Lord, until the day when I rise up to plunder. My determination is to gather the nations to my assembly of princes, to pour on them my indignation, all my fierce anger. All the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Now he's talking about the end times, where he says, okay, wait for me. He's signaling a pause before the climax. The ultimate waiting culminates when God gathers all the nations, the final end-time battle, which is the Battle of Armageddon. The judgment will be worldwide, cleansing the entire earth with the fire of my jealousy. So he goes back and forth between what's going to happen with Judah and what's going to happen with the world. And the Pharisees, not too much the Sadducees, but the Pharisees really studied this stuff, and they say, this is part talking about the Messiah, this is talking about the end times, and this is talking about what happened in Judah. And the way they do that, they go through the whole Bible, and they match verses and put things together that way. So this is a millennial language. It says those. Okay, wait a minute. I have to go back to that. Let's go to verse 9 now. For then I will restore the people a pure language, that they all may call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one accord. Okay, in Hebrew it's Safra Baraha, and it's pure speech, universal language. And there's two different ideas on this. One is that they will, all the nations of the world during the millennium will be worshiping the one God. So it's one God. So they'll have their own language, but they'll be all worshiping God. So it's a spiritual, pure language. On the other hand, it's half the people are talking about that there's going to be one language in the whole earth. Everybody's going to speak the same language. And it's a reverse of the Tower of Babel, where God put everybody out in different languages. So in the millennium, he's going to bring everybody together to speak the same language. And I don't know if I have that picture of the Tower of Babel someplace. I don't know if it's there. Britt? Yeah. So now they're all starting to speak the same language. They're all starting to understand everybody. Like he's yelling and he's going, "Whoa, I understand what you're talking about." They all start speaking the same language. And so the Tower of Babel in Genesis chapter 11, where they all went, all were scattered with different languages and all over the world. And so now during the millennium, it's drawing everybody together. They're all going to be speaking the same language and worshiping the Lord. I sort of go with that because it sort of ties in with other parts of the Bible. But who am I? Okay, verses 10 to 11. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my worshipers, the daughter of my dispersed ones, shall bring my offering. In that day you shall not be shamed for any of your deeds in which you transgressed against me. For Then I will take away from your midst those who rejoice in your pride, and you no longer will be haughty in the holy mountain. So what he's saying here is that it's going to be a global ingathering, and the worshipers will come from the farthest reaches, from the rivers of Ethiopia. And the shame is removed because God eliminates the arrogant, the proud, and creates a holy environment. The millennium's going to be sort of like the Garden of Eden. And he's going to be healing the earth. It's going to have Satan's going to be bound. So you're not going to have Satan to influence you. The land's going to be perfect. You're going to have a perfect government because Jesus is going to be ruling. And so the only thing left is man himself. And so eventually sin comes back in. But okay, verse 12 and 13. Oh, we're going to finish it. Okay. I will leave you in your midst, a meek and humble people, and they shall trust the name of the Lord. The remnant of Israel shall do no unrighteousness and speak no lies, nor shall a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. For they shall feed their flocks and lie down, and no one shall make them afraid. So he's talking about the millennium kingdom again. That people are going to be meek and humble and trustworthy and truthful. It's going to be security and peace. And it's going to be a result of the spiritual integrity that they have. That no one shall make them afraid. There's not going to be any wars. There's not going to be anything. And God's going to be ruling. Jesus is going to be ruling. And then the very end of the millennium, that's when Satan's loose. And then the demons. And then they're going to start convincing people, oh, you want to listen to him? Why? You know, and stuff. So, because people still have their human nature. Okay, verse 14 and 15. Sing, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O Israel. The Lord has taken away your judgment. He has cast out your enemy. The King of Israel, the Lord is in your midst. You shall see disaster no more. So this is the King's presence. So this is when Jesus is sitting on the throne. Okay, so there's a picture of Jesus sitting on his throne, and all the people are coming to him. He's going to be the king and of the King of Kings, the King of the world, and he's going to rule righteously and in justice. Okay, verse 16 and 17. The Lord your God in your midst, the mighty one will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you in his love. He will rejoice you over singing. And the verses are all messed up here. There's two places where when I went, I don't know how, I went to Staples and they messed it up. So to print this thing out. But let me read from here. This will make more sense. Okay, so verses 16 to 17. In that day it shall be said to Jerusalem, do not fear, Zion. Let not your hands be weak. The Lord your God in your midst, the mighty one will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing. And so this is a personal thing. God's telling them personally, I will. He's expressing his tenderness and his joy, and he's a loving Savior. He will quiet you with his love. It's a personal and an emotional connection of divine rest. Okay, now the last few verses, 18 to 20. I will gather those who sorrow over the appointed assembly, who are among you, to whom its reproach is a burden. Behold, at that time I will deal with all who afflict you. I will save the lame and gather those who are driven out. I will appoint them for praise and fame in every land where they were put to shame. At that time I will bring you back, even at the time I will gather you, for I will give you fame and praise among all the peoples of the earth when I return your captives before your eyes, says the Lord. In the final restoration in the millennium, the Jews will be held up, and people will come to them, and they will be revered. They will say, "Tell us more about God," because they know about God. So they say, "Tell us more about God," and there'll be no shame. Right now, the Jews are persecuted all over the world. I mean, in different levels. But in the millennium kingdom, the Jews will be held up high, and people will come to them and they'll revere them. He will restore Israel to their land in full view of the entire world. And that's the end. And 1 minute to spare. Just enough time to pray. Okay, let's pray.